If you thought Keir Starmer was already in trouble after the past few months, this week just made things a whole lot worse for him. Grab a brew and settle in, because we're going through the local election results that have left Labour in complete chaos, and why Reform's strong performance is sending a very clear message to the entire political establishment. This is Real UK Pulse. Right, let's get straight into it. This week's local elections weren't just another routine set of results. They were a proper kick-in for Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. While some in the media are trying to downplay what happened, the reality is pretty hard to ignore. Reform UK had a seriously strong night, and Labour got absolutely battered in a lot of places they used to consider safe. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend this was some perfect, clean sweep for Reform. Politics is never that simple. But what we saw this week was significant, and it tells us a lot about where the country is heading. For years, Labour has acted like the working class vote belongs to them by default. They've taken it for granted, spoken down to people, ignored their concerns, and then acted surprised when those same people stopped turning up for them. Well, this week, a lot of those voters finally said they've had enough. And that's the part that really matters. When you look at where Reform made their biggest gains, it's mostly in traditional working-class areas, places that have voted Labour for generations. Towns and cities across the north, the Midlands, and parts of the country that have felt completely left behind for years. These aren't wealthy, middle-class areas full of people who can afford to ignore what's happening around them. These are proper communities full of normal working people who are struggling with the cost of living, watching their towns change, and feeling like nobody in Westminster actually gives a damn. And after years of being called names, ignored, and treated like their opinions don't matter, they've started voting with their feet. That's the message here. This isn't just about people being a bit annoyed with the government. This is working-class Britain looking at Labour and thinking, you don't represent us anymore. Whether it's on immigration, policing, the economy, or just the general direction the country's heading, a lot of people feel like Labour has completely lost the plot, and the results reflect that. Now, I know some people will try to spin this and say it's all just protest voting, or that Reform isn't a serious party. But that's the same nonsense we've been hearing for years. When you keep losing support in the exact places you're supposed to be strong, at some point you have to stop blaming the voters and start looking at yourself. Keir Starmer won a big majority in 2024 by convincing people he understood working-class concerns. Turns out he either didn't understand them or he simply didn't care. Either way, the British public are starting to see through it. And let's be honest about something else while we're here. A lot of Labour's remaining support is now heavily concentrated in certain urban areas, often with large minority communities who vote along identity or foreign policy lines. That's their business. But it does mean Labour is becoming increasingly disconnected from the wider British public, especially the white working class that used to form the backbone of their support. Meanwhile, Reform is picking up huge numbers of votes from people who feel completely abandoned by the political class. These are normal, everyday Brits who are tired of being lectured, ignored, and told their concerns are illegitimate. And whether the media and the establishment like it or not, that voice is getting louder. Now, I'm not saying Reform are perfect. Far from it. But at least they're willing to talk about the issues that actually matter to millions of people. Issues that Labour and the Conservatives have spent years running away from. And that's why they're gaining ground. As for the Greens, well, let's just say they didn't exactly cover themselves in glory either. A few gains here and there in very specific middle-class areas. But overall, they continue to look like a party that exists in a completely different reality to most normal working people. When you're pushing policies that would make life even more expensive and difficult for ordinary families while acting morally superior about it, don't be surprised when people start taking you seriously. The truth is, Britain is changing. The old way of doing politics is breaking down. People are fed up with being taken for granted by Labour, fed up with the Conservatives offering nothing different, and increasingly willing to vote for parties that actually say what they're thinking. This result should be a serious warning to Keir Starmer and the entire Labour Party. If they keep losing support in working-class areas while relying more and more on specific voter blocks, they're going to have a very serious problem at the next general election. But knowing this lot, they'll probably just blame the voters again and carry on as if nothing happened. I want to hear what you think about all this. Are you happy with how Reform performed? Do you think Labour are in real trouble now, or do you think they'll recover? And do you think the political establishment is finally starting to realise that people have had enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If you're enjoying this kind of straight-talking, no-nonsense content and you're sick of the usual political nonsense, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. I'm Jack Carter. This is Real UK Pulse. See you in the next one.